For us, it's really terrific to have a chance to talk to donors and supporters and to tell you sort of what we've been up to, and I think maybe more importantly, what we see looking forward. Because we're not resting on our laurels. We're trying to grow and adapt and change and do everything we can to help the community and through the Community Foundation. I wanted to just talk about our mission and who we are. This hasn't changed. This has been relatively consistent over many, many years. Our mission is to improve the quality of life in our region. And how do we do that? By evaluating and addressing community issues, by building permanent charitable endowments, and by promoting philanthropic and community leadership. So that's our mission, and a couple ways to think about what we do. And I know a lot of you, have been supporters for a long time, but these are just ways we think about it in the office. We try to position ourselves as a tool for donors and professional advisors so that they can accomplish their own personal philanthropic and estate planning objectives. So what's that all mean? Basically, if you give money to the Community Foundation, you're giving it to the community. So you help us help the community. Even if you give us an unrestricted endowment fund, what do we do with that? We take it and endow it and give money away. So you're helping through the Community Foundation. You're giving to us through the community. We have a couple phrases we use. We use the phrase helping today, shaping tomorrow to talk about our work. Our grant making is broad-based. We try to help the entire community. And we know some nonprofits need simple, specific grants, like a phone or a computer, a bus, a van. And that isn't rocket science, and we call that helping today. We also try to do shaping tomorrow work. As we've grown, we've tried to get more involved in complicated, thorny issues in the community, making larger grants, convening people around topic areas, and that's what we call shaping tomorrow. And we try to do both, helping today and shaping tomorrow. I think a final way to think about us, like all of your businesses, you have different emphasis areas. We call it legs of our stool. We bring money in, we give money away, we manage money, and then we have some sort of community leadership responsibilities. And all these legs of the stool are different in different times of our history. And I think going forward, we will place more emphasis on the community leadership area, because even though we give away, $2 million of unrestricted money and maybe $6 or $8 million of restricted money a year, it's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there's so many needs in the community, and money doesn't solve everything. Sometimes you need to convene people, talk to people, get alignment around issues, and we're trying to do more of that over time. So what's our story? This is how, I guess, I view it, and some of you have watched us for a long time, but I think we've made a slow transition from a quiet and reactive and all-volunteer organization to something that's a lot more visible, a lot more proactive, and frankly fast-growing, with ever-increasing community leadership responsibilities. So here's the chapters in our story, at least how I have viewed them. Back in 1935, we were founded as the Erie Endowment, and Elijah Mack was the co-founder of the Boston store, and he wanted to do something for his actually adopted hometown, and he created this entity called the Erie Endowment. That chugged along on an all-volunteer basis, doing good work, until the Tax Reform Act of 1969 created the chance to make a public charity. And the reason this is important, we don't talk about it a lot, but we have over 700 different endowment funds. Many of you have funds here. They're all covered under one audit and one 990 form. That's because we're a public charity. We can group all these funds together. And if each of these were audited separately, or each filled out their own 990 form, you could imagine the amount of accounting bills that would be generated for the community. We're also able to pool money for investment management purposes. So if you have a fund that's $50,000 or $100,000, it's actually being invested like a $200 million charitable endowment. So the returns of the entire endowment fund are allocated to each fund. And that lets us access some sophisticated products we couldn't do on our own, you couldn't do on your own, and it drives down some costs in terms of economies of scale. So That opportunity created itself in '69, presented itself. We became a community foundation in '71. Chugged along as a volunteer organization from '71 to '90. Leaders of the day were Ed Dahl, Bill Grant Jr., Bud Bracken. These are all some names you might know that were great civic leaders. In 1990, they had $20 million and 53 endowments, and they said, we ought to hire somebody because Ed Dahl was 83 years old. And I was just lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. First professional staff member hired. From 90 to 2000, that's sort of the next chapter. We grew by leaps and bounds. We went from 20 million to 100 million. And when we crossed 100, we did strategic planning as a board and said, this two-person shop essentially is not the right way to organize the community foundation, and we wanted to sort of develop different our legs of the stool and hire staff and to become more professional. So that was launched in 2000. That continued. I'll show you the results in a second. In 2005, as we got larger, is when we created this Helping Today, Shaping Tomorrow grant-making strategy to try to do more strategic grant-making. In 2010, I think is another significant date for us. That's when we created Erie Vital Signs. But it's a key indicator project for the community, and it has a great set of data on how we're doing compared to maybe 15 other similar communities. And then the data points are rated up and down. Are we doing better with educational attainment rates than other communities? Are we doing better in health than other communities? And we use this for our grant making now. So every charity who applies to us says, well, according to Erie Vital Signs, we should do this. Or, well, according to Erie Vital Signs, we should do that. Yeah. Frankly, that grew out of the whole community college discussion we had. If you were in town or saw that, we were really, we were on the side that said we ought to have a community college, right or wrong. And, the rest of it didn't happen. But the reason we wanted a community college or thought it was good is because we knew our educational attainment rates are dramatically lower than the state, and the state's dramatically lower than the nation, and the nation's dramatically lower than the rest of the world, frankly. So we knew that, and we also knew about the disconnect between the workforce and the people that need help. And it just dawned on us that maybe everybody wasn't looking at the same data. So that's why we created Vital Signs, just to get a consistent data source out there that people could access. Anybody here of Erie Gives? Humor, you've heard of that, I guess. We created that in 11. I hope you like it. I hope your inboxes aren't being inundated with emails from charities. It's grown terrifically. We started out at 700,000. We started it for our 75th anniversary. This would be fun. So the community gave about 700,000. Then it went from 1.2 to 1.5 to 2.2. We'll see where it goes in the future, but I know the charities love it. We've done an evaluation every year, and 80 to 90% of them say this is just the best thing since sliced bread. I sign all the checks, and it's really interesting when we give them away at the zoo, and our staff does a great job turning all this around in just 10 days. And when you hand out a check to somebody who says, oh my God, thank you, like this is half of my operating budget for a year, or it's an all-volunteer shop, and we don't have any development department, and it really lets charities access donors. It is reaching new donors. It's reaching younger donors. It was designed to do that. I know some of us just hold their gifts for that day. That's okay. But we had donors from 34 states, 2 countries. 5,700 donors made 11,000 gifts. So it's really, this power of social media is really working. So we'll see how long it goes, but so far so good. And then I think our last chapter, which we're just entering now, is I'm calling it Align, Support, and Measure. Erie has trouble rowing the boat in the same direction. I think anybody's been around for a while knows that. And we're really seeing it with our vital signs thing. We get all these grants that say, according to vital signs, according to vital signs, according to vital signs. But nobody's talking to each other, and they're coming up with different solutions for the same problem. So we're going to try to do what we can to get people aligned around strategies. So here's the team now, and it's a lot different and bigger than it used to be. These legs of the stool all have vice presidents heading them up. Aaron's here today, and Susanna. In our finance area, a lot of you may know Barb Sambrock, has been with us almost 10 years, came from Gannon. She heads up a team that does all the investments in finance. George Espy, you may not have met, but he's the grant-making leg of the stool. And he came to us, he was actually retired, has always lived in Fairview, but he ran Ohio Grant Makers. It was a big job in Ohio, all the grant maker groups. He was the director of that. He didn't want to be retired, so he came back and he's working for the foundation now. Susanna and Aaron, you've met. Aaron, do you want to?
So my communications team is Christina Brown, who actually started off as our intern, and she did a great job, and we hired her and gave her a promotion. And then Donna Buzik, who's been here about 6 years, she came to us from the Knox Law Firm, and she's tremendously helpful with the Erie Women's Fund. So somebody had asked me, like, well, what are your favorite things to do at the Erie Community Foundation? And I said, there's really two things, and one is our annual meeting. And our theme this year at the annual meeting was the domino effect. And what the theme meant was, when you establish an endowment at the Erie Community Foundation, we build endowments, we give to nonprofits create programs, and then those programs help people. So it's a domino effect. And we had a story like the AJO fund. When she passed away, that was a tragedy, and they had all this money that came in, and they established a scholarship fund for kids who want to be nurses, and they gave some money away this year. We had a young man from the city mission. They had a program, a New Life program. We gave them money. They had the New Life program, and they brought this young man out of suicide, actually, and got him back to working and in a job. So it's a domino effect. My second favorite day would probably be Erie Gives, and Mike touched on it, on how much it grows. And there again, we talk about the numbers and the figures, but it's really the stories behind what the charities do with that money. And we're hoping next year that we can get more corporate sponsors, because this year our prorated match was $200,000. So each nonprofit got an extra 9.38% on every gift that they received. And where can you get that kind of return in today's society? But and the beauty of those gifts is they're unrestricted. They can do whatever they want with it. So and then the one other thing I just want to mention is Erie Summer Jam. I don't know if you had seen that we were picketed, and what came to light out of that were there's some kids that were coming out of school and didn't have anything to do for the summer. And so we created this program, Erie Summer Jam, and we collaborated with ECRA, which is the Erie County Gaming Revenue Authority. They put in $100,000. Kathy Dahlkamper's team put in $100,000, and the Erie Community Foundation put in $50,000. And we created this Erie Summer Jam program. We had 130 kids apply, and 110 actually went through the program in Erie, Union City, and Corey. There was groups of leaders that sat around the table like you, trying to figure out how we were going to come up with the money, how we were going to create these jobs, who was going to hire these kids. So that's what my team, our job is to tell the stories to you, because all the numbers we share and are great, and the endowments that we build are wonderful, but it's really how it impacts Erie, because it's things that you don't see going on. You can't believe that this is happening, but it's there.
Terrific. That's great. No. So Erie Summer Jam is jobs and more. And so the and more piece also was to create this sense of hope and optimism, and there's things to do in the community. There's tons of things for kids to access in Erie, but it's hard to, promote them. Sometimes kids just don't understand what's available. So we wanted to help create job opportunities, but also to promote the and more piece, jobs and more. So you can, if you believe that the public sector has some role with job training, and some people, you can debate that. Maybe that's not the right role of government, but if you believe it does, this program really, really worked. It was great. But what's more important is we've now lined up the folks that could access the big federal grant that can pay for this stuff. And Erie dropped the boat. Or dropped the ball, excuse me. Erie dropped the ball. Missed the boat and dropped the ball. We used to have that program. And folks my age, and your age, got that job training in Erie. There were lots of people that did that, and for some reason we stopped doing it. So now, hopefully next year, our little pilot project might grow into some big federal program that could help Erie kids. Susanna?
My role is really to work with you. You are investors not only in the foundation, but in our community. So any questions you have about existing funds, about establishing new funds, that's what I spend my time doing. I work with Aaron a lot in terms of telling our story, particularly among the professional advisor community. Oftentimes CPAs, attorneys, and financial advisors are a big part of the process when it comes to your estate planning, your philanthropic planning, etc. So I try to help with that wherever I can and help grow our endowments, because at the end of the day, we can't do any of this great work without growth in our endowment. So that's me.
So here's how we've grown, just to give you a sense of things. And I took a 20-year period. 1993, we had 69 endowment funds, assets of $26 million. 03, that grew to 384. That's when we crossed 100 million for the first time. And 13, now we're up to $208 million. The thing I'm most proud of, frankly, is the number of funds, because we could work really, really hard for years to create one fund that's $10,000, or a $1 million fund could, in a sense, fall in our laps. So I think the real measure of a community foundation is, do donors support you by creating funds? And I'm really proud that in Erie it seems to be working. 711 endowment funds is a nice number. In a sense, we've become sort of almost a mini trust company, if you think about us. I mean, a nonprofit trust company, because all these 711 clients, require some donor service, and we have agency endowment funds that are interested in, maybe some presentations. We have about 120 scholarships. There's over 100 nonprofit organizations that have created endowments with us. So there's lots of activity going on in back of these doors and throughout the office. So lots of people are always interested in our investments. When we have sessions, there's usually questions, so I put a slide together on that. We, and I think the community, is really lucky that our investment committee is chaired by Doug Ziegler and Greg Spanos. Some of you might know Doug. He ran Erie Insurance Money for a long time, billions of dollars. Greg Spanos, you may not know, but his father was John Spanos, passed away, and Greg has a high-level investment job on the East Coast in the Boston area, and they have a family scholarship fund here. So I was talking to Greg about investments. He says, hey, I'd be happy to help. So Doug and Greg actually fly around the country interviewing investment managers on their own dime, which is really great for us. We rely on a consulting firm, Cambridge & Associates, which is a big firm, handles lots of foundation and higher education business. What we're trying to do from a philosophy point of view is to keep the purchasing power of an endowed fund forever. So Mr. Max Money in 1935 bought a certain amount of goodwill, and we still have Mr. Max Money. And it's still buying goodwill, and we hope it's that or more. To get at that, the consultants tell you got to build a portfolio that'll earn something like 9% over time, because you want to give away 4, inflation will be 2 or 3, expenses will be 1%. So if you're not earning 9%, you're really falling backwards. And over the last 5 years, it's working. Just to give you a 5-year view, 12.1%, 11 we were down 3.2, 12, 12.3, 13, 13.3, and year to date, when I put the slide together, we were 4.6 up. So that's working. The main takeaway, though, I want you to have is that we take it real seriously. This room is filled up often with people looking at investments and trying to figure out the best thing to do. Through Doug and Greg's efforts, they've helped us get into things I'm not an expert on, but lots of alternative investments. They're able, between Doug and Greg and Cambridge, we're actually able to buy into products and offerings that are closed to the rest of the world, or require much higher buy-in. So we think we're well positioned going forward. It will go up and down, however. There'll be a year when we're down. So now I'm into the so what piece of the presentation. Who cares about all this? And what's the value add of the community foundation? What's our value proposition? Is the world any better because we're here? Because we're the overhead. It's you're the donors who make things happen. And we hope so. The answer is we hope so. We think we've done a lot and to bring new ideas to the community. And I've got some logos here just to show you. We now have regional affiliate community foundations in Corey, Union City, Northeast, and Findlay Lake. That wasn't here before. We helped create all that. Our staff is their staff. They have a local, maybe a secretarial assistants, but Erin helps with marketing, Susanna helps with asset development. We invest the funds together. More importantly, they help us be good grant makers. So when we have a grant request that affects Northeast, we'll talk to their board. They have a board like you sitting there trying to do good work, and we can communicate and share ideas. So that seems to be working. We created the nonprofit partnership 12 years ago. So the nonprofit partnership does training programs for nonprofits, and it came because our trustees would open up their board books and they'd look at the grant application and they'd say, they don't really need our money. They need a better board, or they need education, they need training, and that's what this group does. We fund it heavily, about $150,000 a year for operating costs, and then nonprofits belong to it. They get some dues revenue that way. Here's the logo for Erie Summer Jam that Erin mentioned. That's closed down now. We will get an evaluation report. They did a pre and a post test of all the kids. We'll be able to make a judgment on how it worked. The purse is for our Erie Women's Fund. I think some of you participate in that. There are 62 women who give $1,000 a year to belong to the Women's Fund, and then they collectively make grants. They've created an endowment fund that also produces income. Our staff helps their activities, so that's a new idea that seems to be working. Other things that we're working on, Earn It, Keep It, Save It is a really interesting program that we created here in our office. It's called Erie Free Taxes. And Erie Free Taxes markets the federal Earned Income Tax Credit program. Those of you that are employers, some of your employees might be able to access this program. The profile is a single mom making $30,000, maybe a couple kids. If they fill out this complicated form that nobody knows about to access the Earned Income Tax Credit, they could get a couple $1,000s back from the feds. And the feds would tell you this is the most effective anti-poverty fighting program in the nation that annually lifts millions of people above the poverty line. We ran it in our office for a few years, and then we spun it off to United Way. They now market it. We continue to fund it. And it's a great new idea that we could bring to the community. Erie's Future Fund is another idea that started in this room. If you want to change the community, the long view is help each kid get ready to go to school. There's brain research that says if you arrive at school behind, you never catch up. A low-income kid that doesn't get the stimulation they need early on, they're not going to catch up. There are consultants that look at third grade reading scores to figure out the number of prison beds that are needed in a community. So that's pretty frightening when you think about it. So we created Erie's Future Fund to scholarship low-income kids into high-quality preschools. And I think we've helped 280 kids, young kids, access high quality. And quality is something that can be measured in the preschool world. We track them over time. It's a long-term project, long commitment, but it's a good idea. I've talked about vital signs. Friends of the Foundation, we're working hard to involve younger people in the life of the Community Foundation. This would be a group maybe 25 to 40, 45. We have special meetings for them. We do issue briefings like this for a younger group. A little bit more emphasis, of course, on social media and technology, but it's important, we think, to spread the base. The Wish Book, this is what we do to help projects we can't fully fund. So we get all these grant applications, we don't have enough money, we make our best judgments. Sometimes we fully fund them, other times we say, all right, we're going to give you half. And then we tell the charities, go raise the rest of the money. Well, that's hard. So we created this wish book, so we put them up on our website under this wish book. They're vetted, they're up for 6 months. Charities talk to their donors, maybe we can help encourage people to take a look at it. So these are just good, in our view, good vetted projects that deserve support. Donors Choose is another new idea we brought to the community. This is our way to help teachers in classrooms. So this is a national program, and if you go to donorschoose.org, you could see classroom projects all across the nation, frankly. And you go to Pennsylvania, and all the teachers in Erie County are saying, I would wish I had $200. Or if I had $300, I could do this in my classroom. And donors are helping them, but we're providing a match fund. So if you give $100 to this project at Fairview, I love Fairview, my home community, that teacher gets another $100 from the Erie Community Foundation. In California, there was a donor that went on Donors Choose and looked at all the projects and said, oh, that's interesting. What would it cost to do them all? And they called the Donors Choose people and they said, well, $2.5 million. And that donor said, okay, I'll do that. So you never know what might happen, but it's a nice project and we're happy with it. Other things we're working on, sort of the big topic areas are education and workforce, access to healthcare, and public safety. These aren't the only problems in Erie, but they're sure big ones. And we're trying, along with others, to help. Under the whole education and workforce area, there's a new program called Career Street that is making sure that kids get work exposure and work experience so they know what the options are. So if you're a high school student or a junior high student, and you might not know that I could go to work at PHB or Polacos Chocolates, and what are they looking for? And you might offer a factory tour just to get kids there to see what the jobs are and what it really looks like. Then you might get into what kind of training do you need to try to move that way. Said the other way, kids are often unrealistic. Boy, I'd like to be a rocket scientist. And what jobs are available in Erie? I'd like to stay in Erie, but I want to be a rocket scientist. So Career Street is run by Jennifer Nygaard Ponzer. I think I went to a Rotary presentation yesterday. They've already set up 850 experiences for kids to learn about the workforce. So we hope that'll be helpful. WIN is, I'm blanking on the acronym, but it's another project to help kids understand what the workforce is. The General McLean School District led this, and every school district in Erie County now has new software where the guidance counselors can go online and say, if you want to be an architect, here's what you need to do, and here's what the job outlook is, and here's what you get paid. So this goes back to employers can't find qualified workforce, and then the people who run nonprofits come to us and say, my people can't get jobs. So something was broke, and we're trying to create that connection. And these are two projects doing that, Career Street and WIN. Healthcare, we've worked hard to establish a new school-based health center at Wayne. It's up and running. It is serving about 2,000 patients a year, I believe. The theory is we needed to keep people out of emergency rooms. That's the worst place to get your care and your primary care. So an effective way to do this is by creating school-based health centers. And we've worked with Community Health Net to try to get this thing running, get it started. We've tried to strengthen Community Health Net because that is our federally qualified healthcare center that gets higher Medicaid reimbursement rates. It's all about accessing Fed dollars. We're now working with UPMC to help Primary Health Network, which is another entity, come in and manage the Wayne school-based care project so that we can have that higher Medicaid reimbursement rate and make it self-sustaining, and then maybe expand it to other schools in other parts of the county. Northeast would love to have a school-based health center. We've got to get this one up and running and working well. Public safety, crime, neighborhoods, huge problem in our community. Those of you that grew up in Erie probably can't believe what Erie looks like now. We are trying to do our part. We've made 2 major grants, over $200,000 each, related to sort of, how to stabilize neighborhoods. So if you grew up in Erie and you lived in this neighborhood here, this was probably nirvana in heaven. You'd go downtown, knew all your neighbors. It's not that way anymore. So Neighborhood Resource Organization is something new in the community that's trying to expand neighborhood watch groups, strengthen them. It's working with small business owners in distressed neighborhoods, trying to, a whole range of services to try to strengthen our neighborhoods. It's a big, big challenge. And so our part is this, the other enforcement's another piece, which, that's government. Okay, so that's about enough of the past. What do I see and what do we see in the office going forward? Here's the situation as far as we see it. We think there's going to be continued growth. I don't think we're done. I think we'll see 300 million sooner than we think. Can't predict when. New gifts are important. Investment management's really critical. But again, we position ourselves as a tool for donors, and because of that, we're not a direct fundraiser. I don't think any of you have heard me say, gosh, we need money today for this annual fund goal. I mean, that's just not our thing. So we try to work with donors and your advisors, and when you're ready and when the time is right, we hope the foundation will play a role there. Having said all that, competition for the annual and endowed dollar is stronger than ever. You see it. Everybody's got development directors. I think Allegheny College has 42 people on their development staff. We have Susanna, and we just got her. So there's a lot of competition. We also know that we're really under scrutiny, and I mean that in a good way, public oversight. People watch us, they watch the Community Foundation, and we have to be aware of that. We know technology is going to play an increased role with the Community Foundation. That's why Erie Gives is such an interesting thing for us. What do we see going forward? We hope we can drive transformational community change. We know we can't, we'll play a role. This is a big job, we need everybody. It's not just up to us, but we want to play a role here. So how do we do it? Align, measure, and support. We want to try to get the Community Foundation and other civic leadership organizations, aligned around which way we want to row the boat. And that's a challenging job. But to do that, we're going to add goals to the Vital Signs site. Right now, it's just a bunch of data. And pretty soon, you're going to see, well, here's the goal. And that goal might be what Erie Together came up with, or it might be something the foundation comes up with, or with this federal planning grant called Destination Erie, they have some ideas. But until we get goals up there, we're going to just keep responding to 1 million different grant requests and no consistent strategy. So our grant making going forward is going to say, all right, here's a goal. How's your project moving the community forward towards that goal? And I think that's going to help. Time will tell. There'll be places where we don't have goals, and then the foundation might be convening people to try to come up with what the goal might be. We have a great opportunity to get the donor community more aligned. We meet in this room with other grant makers, GE, the banks, and we don't control what each other does, but we're now sharing information. So that's important. So if GE's launching an initiative to do something around STEM, we ought to know about that, and maybe we could support it, or vice versa. So that, I think, is something that I'm hopeful for in the future that might help the community more. You'll probably see the foundation, as we move in this direction, maybe devote some resources to grant writing to try to get that big private foundation grant or that big government grant that we've missed as a community, and maybe we can play a role there. And then we just got to keep telling our story. We've committed to doing these more and more. I looked at my files, and we we did lunch and learns in 2008. So time passes. So we're recommitting to doing lunch and learns, and you and your friends hopefully will attend these going forward. How can you help? Help us tell our story. If you like this idea of alignment, encourage that. I ask everybody to look at vital signs, be informed. If you haven't created a fund, think about it. When the time is right, leave a legacy. My wife and I have a scholarship fund here, and it makes us feel good. That will be here forever, and that's nice. Refer people to us, both on the donor side and the grant-making side. And if you're interested in joining the Women's Fund, that's an option. If you are 25 to 40, join the Friends Fund. The Elijah H. Mack Society is for people that have told us we're in their estate plan. And we don't ask, nor do we want to know the amounts, but if we know that, then we invite you to some functions throughout the year. We just had something at Cirque du Soleil, an advance event that was very, very nice. It's just another way for us to thank people that have let us know that. So I like to end with a quote from Margaret Mead, never forget a small group of people can change the world. Indeed, it's really the only thing that ever does. So a small group like this, you never know what might come out of it. And I hope you, I want to thank you for all you do, not only for the foundation, but for the community. I know y'all support lots of things, and that's important. So with that, I'll stop, ask for questions.